Welcome to Nobilis Erotica, episode 385. I am your host, Nobilis Reed. The Circlet Press story for October 2017 is The Best Part of the Power by Ellis Sandry, originally published in Like a Spell, Fire, Gay Male Fantasy Erotica, edited by Jennifer Levine and available now from Circlet Press. Ellis Sandry lives in London and writes a lot of fiction set in universities, as they're particularly enthralling and frustrating places. Ellis's fiction has appeared, under different names, in Daily Science Fiction, Apex Magazine, and other magazines and anthologies. It's narrated by me. Here we go. The Best Part of the Power by Ellis Sandry. Dr. Aaron Ward edged into the senior common room of St. Anthony's College and boggled. It was creaking with heritage. The room was full of old white professors, lined up like the Lewes chessmen, and making Aaron feel more than usually young and gangly. But Aaron had worked hard to get to St. Anne's. Recollecting that gave Aaron enough bravado to claim a place on a leather sofa. Along the sofa from Aaron sat a white-haired guy in a weather-worn blue tweed.
Hello, I'm Patrick Brooke, one of the old guard.
Aaron Ward. The enfant terrible?
Well, that doesn't do either of us any favors, said Professor Brooke.
His wry voice made Aaron look at his face properly. Though creased, jaw dotted with white stubble, but with eyes that twinkled.
Call me Patrick. Welcome to St. Anthony's.
Patrick's hand, when Aaron shook it, was warm and calloused, and the room felt immediately less hostile.
I'm archaeology,
Patrick explained. I'm cultural thaumaturgy, said Aaron.
I haven't kept up with the new fields. Forgive me. What's that?
Aaron tried to think of an explanation that was neither patronizing nor pretentious. I read spells and look at their social setting. Aaron was surprised when the professor's light blue eyes lit up.
I approve of that. Not like these practical lads over in the new block. Have you met them?
Aaron nodded. The School of Practical Power.
They take things out of context. They want power to work like electricity.
And it doesn't, does it? Aaron chimed in, forgetting nervousness. It's always part of a social context.
Precisely. The practical lads call me up and say, that leather neck piece you found for us. We liquidized it and stuck it back together, and now it doesn't work anymore. Can you find us another one?
They don't.
They do, and they're so bloody well endowed.
Aaron tried not to grin, and the professor bit his lip.
Oh dear, with funding grants, I meant.
Aaron meant to say more, but a green tingling was creeping into their sinuses. Aaron scanned the room. Yes, some idiot was levitating a spoon. Head high, trembling, an accident waiting to happen. Oh, what an arsehole. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're right, tomfoolery. Give me a moment.
The professor raised his hand, strong and tanned, with tiny scars from 30 years of digging, and the green tingle leached out of the air, and the spoon spun, sunk, and clanked back onto the table, to cries of annoyance from the nearby faculty. Useful, thought Aaron. After a long day of studying powerful words, when everything ached, could Patrick drive out the green fizz from your body? Use the heels of his strong hands to push the buzzing up and out of your neck muscles? Hard thumbs digging in, grinding, slow spirals. Aaron's vision was cut short by Patrick's head flopping back against the leather Chesterfield. Are you all right?
Yes. No, migraine. Damping down power sets it off sometimes.
I know a charm for headaches, if you want to risk it. Patrick answered with his eyes closed.
Will it turn me into a toad? Go on, do your worst.
Aaron called the words to mind and spoke them. Tongue tingling, throat rubbed raw by the energy. Aaron felt the charm snag on the points of pain in Patrick's mind, his interesting, crinkly, complex mind, and dissolve them. A look of blessed release spread across Patrick's face.
Thank you. Amazing. You see, useful power. Not titting about with cutlery. Think what we could achieve with your mouth and my hands. Oh, good grief, I'm so sorry. His cheeks actually grew pink. I'm not fit for company. I'd better go home.
Aaron wanted to say, "You don't need to apologize. I was wondering myself about your hands and my mouth." Seeing him with his head thrown back, smiling, had tugged at Aaron's guts. Later that night, Aaron looked up the professor's work. There were plenty of photographs of him when he was younger, triumphant in trenches, holding up famous amulets and torques. He'd been one of the first archaeologists to specialize in powerful finds. Others showed him standing outside the British Museum with a petition. He'd campaigned for the return of many objects of power to their home countries. Patrick's pale eyes against his tan skin put Aaron in mind of caramel ice cream. Where did his tan end? Aaron cut off the speculation. Beneath this flood of lust were some pretty naughty motives. Hero worship, office politics, the prospect of having power over a powerful man. It wasn't a coincidence that desire had ambushed Aaron in the first social event of a new job. Aaron resolved to enjoy Professor Brooke frequently and at length, but only in fantasy and solo. Aaron allowed one hand to wander downward, fingertips rubbing sensitive spots through scruffy leggings. Picking up the fantasy again, Aaron wondered, if one were to explore Professor Patrick's body, would his brown wrists give way to pale arms, maybe gray chest hair, before the gold flush returned at the base of his throat? "My hands, your mouth," he'd said. A picture formed of Patrick stroking Aaron's lips, carefully pushing two of his rough fingers into Aaron's mouth. Aaron imagined greedily sucking and licking at them, and seeing Patrick close his eyes and smile, helpless with lust. Half-term break brought an agitated rapping on Aaron's office door. Patrick was more than normally mud-caked. "Been digging?"
"Aaron, make yourself useful."
"Useful to you?" Aaron set aside a stack of Tudor contraceptive charms and followed Patrick outdoors, along the cobblestone paths that wound between the university buildings.
"Useful to human knowledge. I've just unearthed something. Well, unwatered it. From the depths it cried to me."
"Where were you digging, or diving?"
"A fountain in Somerset."
He sketched out the dig site with his hands, the converging sandstone hills, prop holes, and fire pits.
"You'll love what I've found."
The long wood workbenches of Patrick's lab held many trays of liquid, like photographic developing baths. Even from this distance they felt tingly.
"Don't touch anything."
"I wouldn't."
"You non-archaeologists always want to poke things."
Aaron resisted poking Patrick, and instead leaned over a tray. It held dark rectangles the size of credit cards. Sheet metal, perhaps? Marked onto them were rows of delicate curved scratches. Water swirled and bloomed in the silt around them, as did a pine-colored fizz. Strong magic.
"They're dozens of charms,"
said Patrick.
"tossed into the spring."
Like in Bath, the Bath curse tablets were an early powerful find. They could scour your skin off if you handled them wrong.
"That's where you come in. They're probably Tudor. Would you read them for me?"
Aaron looked up in surprise. Handling unknown powerful objects was reckless. But Patrick's smile was pleading, daring Aaron.
"Oh, go on. I can't read this style of lettering at all. Just do one."
"Yeah, one blood-curdling curse won't do any harm."
"You'd be the first person to read it since it was made."
Aaron felt dizzy. Hundreds of years of water passing over the invocations, then Patrick plucking them out of the water, Aaron reading them.
"I really don't want to hand them straight over to the practical lads,"
added Patrick. "Okay, I will, but not without protection." Patrick held out a hand.
"I can, well, damp us down a bit, may I?"
Patrick's deft, rough fingers curved around one of Aaron's wrists. The powerful agitation in the air stilled immediately. But of course, now Aaron's nerves were twanging for other reasons. "Just one," Aaron insisted. Aaron looked down into a tray and peered at one of the tablets. It would be best to read it one word at a time, Aaron thought. The danger of written magic was that it jaunted along and pulled you with it. It wanted to be spoken. You could easily become the mouthpiece of an ancient intention.
Fine Robin,
Aaron read aloud what seemed to be a title, then lines of verse.
Who list to best him surely fails.
Where Patrick's hand met Aaron's wrist, magic began to writhe and prickle.
And should not o'er his deeds repine.
Damn, the rhythm drew you in. Aaron paused, panting a little, hot in the face. Patrick tightened his grip. His stilling influence felt like cool water running through Aaron's veins.
True wisdom joined with godliness?
The words were rolling around the room now. It was impossible to speak quietly of fine Robin.
And wit that wine may not oppress.
Patrick's palms and Aaron's arm crackled with green fire. Aaron felt the floor roll gently like the fluid in the sluicing trays. Patrick pulled up a stool.
Bugger, I shouldn't have asked you.
Aaron didn't want to be coddled.
I'm fine. Still got all your fingers? Probably not cursed then. What was it?
Aaron thought of luck charms, health charms, supplications for forgotten gods, and dismissed them all. Not sure.
Who was Robin?
I don't know. It seemed very stupid not to know. Patrick clearly shared Aaron's embarrassment as he moved over to a computer and cranked up a specialist database.
Bingo! I've got some leads. Could you?
As Patrick read out Dewey numbers for library books, Aaron hastily scrawled them in lists along one arm, a habit left over from student days. Within minutes they were marching together along the path to the library, interrupting one another and grinning.
I'll take tomorrow off. Go to the British Library if I need to,
Patrick offered. I don't want to tread on your toes, but do you think I can write an article on Robin?
Well, I'd want to do that as well, of course. Maybe we... No, I'm being silly.
What?
We could co-author something?
Yes. Patrick held out his hand. When Aaron took it, they were suddenly both laughing, and Aaron was seized in a brisk, hard hug. Tweed scratched against Aaron's neck, and Patrick smelled deep and sweet like rolling tobacco.
Brilliant,
Patrick murmured, close to Aaron's ear.
An article on Robin.
It felt good just to say his name, rich and full in the mouth. Fine Robin, repeated Aaron. Wonderful Robin. It felt so good. Patrick looked quizzical. Then he said, very deliberately,
Marvelous Robin. Oh, bollocks, Patrick said. That's the spell, isn't it?
The charm tablet had told them it was good to know and admire Robin, and they'd both been beguiled. Aaron was suddenly aware of standing too close to Patrick. I think it's a praise song, Aaron said, stepping back. A kind of compelling charm. Henry VIII used them a lot.
I really fell for it, didn't I?
Patrick was clearly regretting their experiment, probably thinking he behaved stupidly. A famous professor, offering to author a paper with a total novice. The quad was suddenly cold and gray.
Wait, look.
Patrick caught Aaron's eyes.
Thank you for keeping me company while I was bamboozled by a bit of Renaissance PR. Hang on.
Patrick placed two of his fingers on the bridge of his nose. Slowly and methodically, he slid the fingers up over his forehead, back through his white hair, all the way over his head and down the back of his neck. Then he shivered, shaking himself like a dog drying off. It was utterly mystifying, and definitely sexy.
Ah, got it out of my head. Would you like me to?
He gestured. Aaron nodded. Patrick leaned over carefully and put his fingertips on Aaron's brow. He pushed them up and back through Aaron's hair, driving out the sparks from Aaron's scalp, until the tingle dwindled to a spot at the nape of Aaron's neck, and Patrick flicked it away. Yearning grabbed Aaron. Lean into him, hold him for longer. But resisting only took a moment of clenched hands, and in the next second, Aaron's mind felt spring-cleaned. Thanks! Wow! Patrick put his hands in his pockets and looked up at the sky.
I shouldn't ask, but do you want to read the rest of the tablets?
He wasn't regretting it. We need to be safer, Aaron said.
I could arrange that.
Patrick had smuggled a priceless containment device home from work, a chrome canister the size of a bread bin resting on his coffee table.
Popped it in a golf bag, Patrick explained.
His home was a stone cottage a few miles out of town. Aaron sat on an old, soft sofa and watched Patrick tinker with the containment device. He was dressed in a cable-knit sweater and worn jeans.
"It was stupid not to use some kit last time. You're definitely all right?"
"I'm perfectly well. Praise Robin." Patrick scowled.
"Behave yourself."
"Yes, Professor."
"Right. Pick an ancient tablet. Any ancient tablet. Go on."
Aaron selected a black rectangle at random and passed it to Patrick, who loaded it with a clunk into the containment canister.
"Shall I?"
"Yes, please." Patrick reached out, and Aaron felt soothed and agitated as the professor's hand closed round Aaron's bare wrist. Aaron peered into the viewing window and began to read. "Sorrow that Anne has left us." We sorrow? No, that wasn't right. It wasn't really a statement of fact, it was an injunction. Weep for Anne's leaving. Weep as the melting ice when spring transfigures the lake. Weep as long as the waterfall weeps with meltwater. Aaron was crying, face pushed against the bumpy pattern of a cable-knit sweater being held by Patrick. He was cradling Aaron's head. "Calm down," the gesture said. Aaron felt his fingers start a careful, soothing stroke, stirring Aaron's hair. "You're all right. Calm down and come here." Maybe it was magical, maybe only sensual. Either way, it was magnetic. It also dragged part of Aaron's brain free of the sorrow. Emerging, Aaron started to enjoy Patrick's chest. His arm completely encircled Aaron, stronger than Aaron had imagined. Aaron looked up, gently shook off Patrick's arms. His eyes were bright. "You're not hurt?" asked Aaron.
"Well, not really."
"It's a mourning charm."
"I noticed. Here."
Patrick picked up a piece of newspaper and ripped a small hole in it.
"Look through this, so you can only see one word at a time."
"Excellent. Patrick, if I get caught, can you pull me away to break my line of sight?"
Probably."
Aaron leaned over the collected tablets. Words flashed up through the hole in the newspaper. Cows. Stolen. A revenge charm. Gold. A request for money. Barley. If the charm made crops grow, what would happen? Would Patrick's pot plants flourish? Aaron's housemate's weed overgrow the flat? Skin burn. What? May his skin singe, and his innards— Patrick! He was quick. One moment Aaron was being sucked into reciting the curse. The next instant, one of Patrick's hands was over Aaron's eyes, and Aaron had been spun easily around, facing away from the lethal square of metal. In the dark behind Patrick's palm, green sparks spattered around the edge of Aaron's vision and faded.
"You're burning up,"
Patrick said, shifting his hand to Aaron's forehead, cooling it.
"Coffee break?"
In Patrick's garden, Aaron spotted powerful plants along the borders. Holly, rosemary, rowan. The sky had clouded over, but Aaron's skin still smarted. Aaron inhaled the steam of the coffee to drive away the deep cocoa smell of Patrick.
Patrick finally spoke. "I don't want to hand these over to the practical lads. Look at that last one. You could have someone's eye out with that."
Something bobbed up in Aaron's memory. Gossip among cultural thaumaturgy graduate students. "When I was job hunting, I heard about a post at the British Museum."
"Doing what?"
"Combing through the collections, particularly the Middle Eastern stuff, the Persian galleries, finding powerful objects." It was government-funded.
"But they're not returning objects to Iran at the moment, are they?"
"I thought it might be a military project, finding weapons."
"To use against the countries we stole the objects from in the first place. Oh, for heaven's sake."
Patrick groaned. "What will you do?" Aaron asked. "With the tablets?"
"They legally belong to the university. They'll sack me if I don't hand them over. I could try to draw public attention to it, but I've tried to get campaigners interested in powerful weapons for years with no luck. No."
He stared at the clouds, thinking aloud.
"I'll hide them. Bury them somewhere, maybe under there."
He waved at a yew bush.
"I can hand over some harmless ones. Tell them that's all I found. Will you help me sort them?"
This is dangerous, Aaron thought. First we're cooperating, then we're touching. Now we're conspiring. Yes, absolutely. 3 hours later, Patrick said,
My giddy aunt! Look at them all.
9 charms for luck. 3 requests that children thrive, which made Patrick tearful. 7 charms for crop growth. The next time they took a break, the garden was suspiciously verdant. And this one's a shopping list.
What?
Asked Patrick. It's like an Elizabethan Amazon wish list. I want a big horse and some clothes to impress rich widows.
Poor man. He'll probably be mocked for that for another 500 years.
But they'd also discovered 7 curses. One had been so fierce that Aaron had ended up holding both hands under the kitchen tap, Patrick stroking Aaron's fingers to drive out the spikes of power. Aaron didn't want to think about what the practical boys could do with the curses, ripping them out of context, scaling them up, weaponizing them. Aaron, despite tiring eyes, picked out a few words from a new tablet. Grow, blossom, skin. I think this is for health.
Bung it over.
Patrick slotted it into the safety canister, and Aaron leaned across the sofa to see. Patrick clasped Aaron's arm as a precaution. May his skin grow warm. Another curse? At the sight of me, may our need blossom. Sparks flowed through Aaron's whole body, winding from the tongue down into the belly, tingling out to the fingertips. Pure longing, pure pleasure. Patrick's hand closed over Aaron's eyes. His other arm turned Aaron away from the tablet. He'd done it a half-dozen times before. Just as before, Aaron felt sparks seething up, then damped down by Patrick's touch. But this time, the ebb and flow built and grew, became indistinguishable from desire. It's not a curse, Aaron breathed.
I know.
The effort from resisting the spell made Patrick's voice crack. Aaron relaxed into his hold, leaned back, twisted round to meet Patrick's mouth. Aaron had imagined dry lips, reserved kisses. Patrick's mouth was already open, intensely hot and soft, like falling face first into velvet. He held back for a moment, but as soon as Aaron ran a tongue tip across his lips, his tongue plunged into Aaron's mouth, swirled, withdrew. The contact settled the prickles that had plagued Aaron's mouth all afternoon, leaving behind a pleasant fatigue. Patrick's arms and hands held Aaron's weight, gently repositioning. He's so stupidly strong, Aaron thought again. All that digging. How do I show, Aaron wondered, that this is what I want, spell or no spell? Lying across Patrick's legs, Aaron arched into the kiss, rubbing like a cat against him. Patrick tensed, spoke into Aaron's ear.
No, wait, I'm sorry.
What?
Shouldn't. Taking advantage.
Aaron drew back to see his expression, rueful, sober. You're not. I've thought about this. Before.
Oh?
It was fun to surprise him. He blinked, his pale eyes huge, and then his smile caught up.
Really?
Aaron ran fingers along his jaw. I wondered what your stubble would feel like.
Cheeky. Well, in that case.
He scooped Aaron's legs up onto the sofa. His arms tightened in a long, grateful hug of Aaron's whole body, while his mouth nuzzled Aaron's neck, grazing the skin, creating an ache for more.
There you go. Stubble. Bet you're sorry now.
He stroked one hand smoothly, deftly, up and down Aaron's calves, utterly relaxing the muscles.
You know, you have amazing legs. If you wore these, what do you call these?
Leggings?
If you wore them on campus, I'd get nothing done.
Do you ever get much done?
Nothing as productive as this.
Aaron slid a hand under Patrick's knitted jumper, feeling warm skin, fine hairs. His muscles shifted in reaction to the sparks, spitting from Aaron's fingers.
You feel like when I'm digging,
Patrick murmured. Muddy?
No.
They were laughing, trying to juggle politeness and unfamiliarity with heady lust.
You feel like a powerful thing I need to find. I have to be very patient and uncover you very carefully. Can you feel that?
Patrick drew his fingertips along Aaron's neck.
Just there? Or is it just me?
His mouth closed over the spot. It was painfully sweet, making Aaron moan.
Your skin, it's got that static. I get what I'm digging. Showing me the right spots.
Patrick's hand slid around Aaron's body, pausing, pressing. "Are you testing the hypothesis?"
"Is it working?"
"Oh, fuck yes." Very precisely, Patrick located and stroked spots that made Aaron moan. He chuckled, and it resonated through Aaron's chest.
"Blimey, never had this happen before."
"No?"
"Not when I'm on the job. Sorry, I mean—"
Patrick buried his embarrassed face in Aaron's skin, muttering,
"It's the best part of the power."
Aaron, feeling helpless in Patrick's hands, needed to make him react. Twisting in his lap, Aaron got the canister in sight again. "Get ready, then. I'll read the rest." Surprising him was addictive. His visible disbelief, his dawning understanding were both delicious.
I don't know if I can keep up."
"A few words at a time?"
"It's a deal."
Patrick's hand closed carefully over Aaron's forehead.
"Can I? In case I need to shut your eyes in a hurry."
"I'll give it 10 words, then stop."
"You'll kill me." 5.
7. May his desire be always seeking me. Patrick's hand slid down, rough skin grazing Aaron's eyelids, quieting the blizzard of lights inside Aaron's head. Patrick's other hand moved up over knees and thighs, lingering on Aaron's buttocks, curving around them, his thumb making investigations into the cleft between. His mouth against Aaron's ear said,
"Strong stuff, that. May I?"
"Definitely." Aaron confirmed agreement with a twist of his hips.
"Amazing arse as well. Amazing legs, amazing arse."
His thumb more insistently circled and pressed through the cotton leggings until Aaron gasped. Patrick's hand withdrew, but in a meandering way that suggested a definite intention to return. Aaron shifted again on Patrick's lap, felt his cock hardening, and strained to run hands up the seams of his jeans to their junction.
"Oh no," Patrick said. "I do the touching. You do the reading."
And then, with a crack in his bravado that delighted Aaron,
"Or you'll be the death of me."
It was surreal to have imagined this and gotten it all wrong. He was much more creative than Aaron had expected, and stronger, and the sparking of the charm added vitality to everything. But Aaron should have foreseen the unique feeling that Patrick's touch communicated, that it had always held.
"Calm down and come here."
He made Aaron melt, he made Aaron's insides tighten, but through it all, his touch was soothing and grounding.
"Calm down,"
and offered partnership and mutual desire.
"Come here."
"I can do both," said Aaron, and swung off his lap, kneeling on the floor. Aaron looked to one side to read a snippet of the tablet. "May he long for me as a bee longs for the flower." Patrick swore and let his head roll back to rest against the sofa cushions. The prickling tingle was back in Aaron's mouth now, chasing around lips and tongue. Kissing would be good, and Aaron wondered about clambering back up to enjoy Patrick's lips, his stubble, but more than kissing would be even better. Aaron unbuttoned the fly of Patrick's jeans, crisp white shorts underneath. Very traditional.
"Didn't know anyone would be seeing them."
He was breathing so fast, so urgently.
"Are you sure?"
"Oh, yes." Aaron freed his hard cock from the white fabric, relished Patrick's gasp as Aaron closed one hand around it. Aaron had the feel of it now, the complex twisted strands of power in the words, and could play with it a little, spin it out. "May he long for me," Aaron repeated. A crackle like the snap of firewood played around Aaron's tongue, as Aaron bent to lick the length of him. It made Patrick jump. Aaron looked up and saw him with his head thrown back, and an expression of such surrender that it spurred Aaron on. He was so sensitive, so easy to please or torment. It wasn't only the charm that made him want this. Aaron began to alternate speaking and licking, words and darts of the tongue. "Long for me, as a bee," drawing the length of him further in. The soothing chill skin of him was a treat for Aaron's raw, sore, power-chafed throat. For all the world, and Aaron tried not to laugh, like a creamy ice lolly. "Longs for the flower." Swallowing as much of him as possible, Aaron felt him start to spasm. Deep in Aaron's throat, compelled and willing, Patrick helplessly, joyfully came.
"Too much,"
Patrick said. "What?" They lay entangled on the sofa.
Too powerful. If that charm can make you hook up with a doddering old fart like me.
Aaron put a hand over Patrick's mouth to silence him, then became distracted when he licked the palm.
But you know, I can't just bury these out in the ground again. Any idiot might find them, and I can't steal them. I'll have to publicly campaign for some kind of agreement.
A change in the law?
Maybe international law. It might work. There's the Convention Against Chemical Weapons. People fought. People made that happen.
It was odd, thought Aaron, that the curses hadn't convinced him, but the sex charm had swung it.
I can make a bit of a fuss when I have to,
he admitted. That, Aaron suspected, was a modest understatement.
I know you've just started your career. Don't worry, I'll keep you out of it.
I'm already in it. He laid a hand on the small of Aaron's back. He was shy again. Now the lust and the charm had eased off. But that other power still rested in him.
Calm down. Come here.
I'm glad we're in it. And that's our story. Have you got something to say? Call the voicemail line at 571-297-3325. Send me an email. Find me on Twitter. Details for contacting me are on the podcast website at nobilis.libsyn.com. And here is your Circlet Press coupon code. To get Like a Spell Fire for 50% off, go to the Circlet website at circlet.com and use the code FIYAH, F-I-Y-A-H. That code will be good until the end of November 2017. If you're not supporting Nobilis Erotica, then you're not getting the whole podcast. Sign up at patreon.com/Nobilis to get monthly exclusive content. We're currently running a fantasy serial called Everfull Cup. And if Patreon isn't your thing, there are plenty of other things you can do to support the show. Subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. Even if you don't use it to get your podcasts, if you subscribe on it, that helps our stats. Join the Nobilis Erotica Facebook group. Follow us on Twitter or Tumblr. Download our promo and get your favorite sexy podcast to play it. Heck, just share us when you like a story. Any of that stuff really helps listeners find us. You have been listening to the Nobilis Erotica podcast. Theme music is composed and performed by Mass Relay. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Until next time, listen hard.